In Chapter 11, we discussed the difficulty of mapping polygenic traits, like heart disease, that are produced by multiple genes, each with a small individual effect, each mediated by the environment. Behavioral traits generally fall in this category. So far as we know, having the appropriate variant on chromosome 6 would not by itself a genius make. There are doubtless necessary variants in genes as yet undiscovered. And even a solid genetic basis might not get you there unless you were also reared in an environment in which learning and thinking were honored over Nickelodeon. But the discovery and the acknowledgement of any molecular basis for intelligence is a breakthrough such as only the genetic revolution could foster. Before DNA markers were available, the meat and potatoes of behavioral genetics was twin studies. Twins come in two varieties: dizygotic, DZ, meaning two individuals develop from two separate eggs, each fertilized by a different sperm, and monozygotic, MZ, meaning that both come from a single fertilized egg, which, in early development, usually the 8 or 16 cell stage, splits into two balls of cells. DZ twins are no more genetically similar than any two siblings, but MZ twins are genetically identical. MZ twins are therefore always the same sex, while DZ twins may or may not be. Surprisingly, it hasn't been very long since we first understood this fundamental difference between twin types. In 1876, when Francis Galton first suggested that twins might be useful in determining the relative contributions of heredity and upbringing, he was unaware of the difference, whose basis had been worked out just 2 years earlier, and assumed wrongly that it was possible for different sex twins to be derived from a single fertilized egg. From his later publications, however, it's clear that the message eventually got through. MZ twinning occurs globally in about 4 of every 1,000 pregnancies, and seems to be nothing more than a random accident. DZ twinning, on the other hand, may run in families and varies from population to population. A group in Nigeria tops the list, with DZ twins accounting for 40 pregnancies per 1,000, while there are only 3 per 1,000 in Japan. The basic premise of the standard form of twin study is that both members of a same-sex pair of twins, whether DZ or MZ, are raised the same way, i.e., receive similar nurtures. Suppose we are interested in a simple, measurable characteristic like height. If DZ1 and DZ2 were both raised on the same diet of food, love, and so on, any difference in height between them would be attributable to some combined effect of genetic differences and whatever subtle differences of nurture may have crept in. For instance, DZ1 always finishes her milk. DZ2 never does. But if we follow the same program with MZ1 and MZ2, the fact that these twins are genetically identical eliminates genetic variation as a factor. Any differences in height must be a function of only those subtle environmental differences. All things being equal, MZ twins will then tend to be more similar in height than DZ twins, and the extent to which this is true gives us a measure of how much genetic factors influence height. Similarly, the extent to which MZ twins have more similar IQs than DZ twins reflects the effect of genetic variation on IQ. This kind of analysis is also applicable to the inheritance of genetic diseases. We say that twins are concordant if they both have the disease. An increase in concordance, when we look for DZ twins to MZ twins, would support the claim of a strong genetic basis to the disease. For example, DZ twins are 25% concordant for late-onset diabetes. If one twin has it, then there is a 1 in 4 chance that the other does too. Whereas MZ twins are 95% concordant for the disease. If one twin has it, then 19 out of 20 times the other does too. The conclusion? Late-onset diabetes has a strong genetic component. Even here, though, the environment plays an obvious role. If it were not so, we would see 100% concordance in MZ twins. A long-standing criticism of this kind of twin study addresses methodology. MZ twins tend to be treated more alike by their parents than DZ twins. Parents sometimes make a virtual fetish of identicalness. Often, for instance, MZ twins are even dressed exactly alike, a habit some weirdly carry into adulthood. Now, this is a legitimate criticism insofar as the more pronounced similarity of MZ twins, as compared with DZs, is interpreted as evidence of genetic influence, when in fact it could simply be a reflection of the more precisely similar nurtures shared by MZs. And here is a further wrinkle in the same problem. How do we tell whether a pair of same-sex twins is DZ or MZ? Well, it's easy, you say. Just look at them. Wrong. In a small but significant proportion of cases, parents mistake their same-sex DZ twins for MZ twins, and thus tend to subject them to the supersimilar nurture routine, the same frilly pink frock for each. And conversely, a small proportion of parents with MZ twins wrongly take them for DZs, dressing one in frilly pink and the other in bright green. Fortunately, DNA fingerprinting techniques have rescued twin studies from this comedy of errors. The test can determine for sure whether the pair are indeed as they were supposed to be, whether DZ or MZ. The mistaken identity groups then serve as the perfect experimental control in the analysis. For example, height difference in DZ twins cannot be put down to differences in nurture if the parents were raising them as MZs. Perhaps no form of twin study holds more popular appeal than the analysis of MZs separated at birth. In such cases, the rearing environments are often very different, and so marked similarities are attributable to what the twins have in common: genes. It makes good copy. You see reports of MZs separated at birth who, it turns out, both have red velvet sofas and dogs called Ernest. Striking though these similarities may be, however, chances are they are mere coincidences. There's almost assuredly no gene coding for the red velvet upholstery preference, or for impulses in dog naming. Statistically, if you list 1,000 attributes, make and model of car, favorite TV show, etc., of any two people, you will inevitably find ones that overlap. But in the press, these are the ones that get reported, usually in the Believe It or Not column. My co-author and I both drive Volvo station wagons and appreciate a cocktail or two. But we are most definitely not